Humanity had always been a species defined by its relentless curiosity and ambition. From the earliest days on Earth, humans had looked up at the night sky with wonder, imagining what lay beyond the stars. This curiosity had fueled centuries of exploration, technological innovation, and daring ventures into the unknown. Over time, humans had not only explored their own planet but had reached into the depths of space, establishing colonies on distant worlds, building research stations on moons, and creating trade routes that spanned light. The Deathworlders were a product of this drive, a specialized branch of humanity's military and exploratory forces, designed to face extreme dangers and protect human interests in the galaxy. Their name alone, Deathworlders, carried weight, inspiring awe and fear alike, because it represented humanity's determination to survive, conquer challenges, and defend those in need. In this far-reaching era of interstellar expansion, humanity had learned many lessons. They had faced hostile environments, deadly alien creatures, and natural catastrophes on worlds that were often hostile and unforgiving. Every colonized planet had taught them to adapt, to invent new technologies, and to train warriors who could operate under the harshest conditions. The Deathworlders were not merely soldiers. They were scientists, engineers, strategists, and explorers all at once. They were humanity's first line of defense, a mobile, highly trained fleet capable of responding to threats across vast distances. Their mission was not only to fight but also to understand, to investigate unknown signals, and to ensure that humanity could thrive no matter what the galaxy threw at them. It was during a routine patrol in a quiet sector of space, far from the main trade routes and human colonies, that the first anomaly appeared. Deep space was mostly empty, filled with faint glimmers of distant stars, cosmic dust, and the occasional wandering asteroid. The crew of the Deathworlder observation vessel were accustomed to long stretches of silence, punctuated only by the occasional signal from a nearby colony or a routine communication from headquarters. But then, a faint, irregular signal reached their senses. It was unlike anything they had encountered before. It wasn't a message from a human colony, nor was it a simple astronomical phenomenon like a pulsar or a gamma-ray burst. This was an SOS, a distress call, but it carried nuances that hinted at desperation, fear, and urgency. The signal came from a remote, previously uncharted region. Initial scans revealed a small planet orbiting a dim star, barely visible through the haze of cosmic dust. The planet seemed isolated, untouched by human presence, and yet, somehow it was sending out a call for help. The content of the transmission was fragmented, consisting of strange patterns of energy that had to be decoded in real time. Linguists, scientists, and cryptographers aboard the fleet worked frantically, trying to interpret the message. The language was alien, completely unfamiliar, yet the urgency was unmistakable. Every repeating pulse, every spike in energy conveyed a sense of imminent danger. It was clear that whoever or whatever sent this signal was facing a threat that could wipe them out completely, if help did not arrive immediately. Admiral Kale, a veteran of countless interstellar missions, I understood the gravity of the situation as soon as he reviewed the preliminary data. He had seen many distress signals before, calls from stranded human colonies, ships caught in meteor storms, or planets experiencing environmental collapse, but this was different. This was not a routine call for help. It was a plea from an intelligent species, a civilization on the brink of annihilation. The implications were enormous. Responding to this SOS would require sending a significant portion of the Deathworlder fleet into uncharted space, through dangerous regions where navigation itself was a challenge. But hesitation was not an option. For humanity, ignoring such a plea went against every principle they held dear. They were not only explorers and warriors, they were protectors. The fleet began immediate preparations. Ships were reconfigured for long-range travel, weapon systems were tested, and medical teams prepared for the unknown injuries or diseases they might encounter. Engineers double-checked every system, from propulsion to shields, knowing that even the smallest failure could be catastrophic in deep space. Officers coordinated with intelligence units, trying to gather any information about the mysterious sector, but records were sparse. The galaxy was vast, and much of it remained unexplored. They were venturing into territory where no human had ever set foot, relying on skill, instinct, and technology to guide them. Meanwhile, back on the command center of the Deathworlder fleet, scientists worked to enhance the SOS signal. Every fragment of data was crucial. The signal contained patterns that hinted at the civilization's biology, their planetary environment, and possibly the nature of the threat they faced. From the way the energy pulses fluctuated, analysts inferred that the inhabitants were intelligent, capable of communication, and aware of the danger approaching them. There was also a sense of panic embedded in the signal, a hurried, almost chaotic structure that suggested the civilization had no time to waste. Every second counted, and the fleet's response time could determine whether these beings would survive or vanish from the galaxy entirely. On board the ships, the crew members prepared themselves mentally for what lay ahead. They were aware that this mission could be unlike anything they had ever faced. Unlike human colonies, there was no established protocol for interacting with an alien civilization that had never been contacted before. The possibilities were endless. The aliens could be friendly, intelligent, fragile, or even hostile out of fear. Yet the ethos of the Deathworlders was clear: humanity did not abandon those in danger, and retreat was never the first option. The crew rehearsed strategies, ran simulations of first contact, and prepared contingencies for every conceivable scenario. The planet itself remained a mystery. From the initial scans, it appeared to be a small world, with a surface partially shrouded in clouds and atmospheric disturbances. There were signs of structures, geometrical patterns, suggesting intelligent construction, but nothing could be confirmed until the fleet arrived in orbit. The deeper the fleet traveled, the more isolated the planet seemed. This isolation, combined with the desperate SOS signal, made the mission both urgent and perilous. For the first time in decades, the Deathworlders were responding not just to a signal, but to a possible extinction event for an alien civilization. The weight of this responsibility hung heavily on every officer, scientist, and soldier aboard the ships. In this moment, humanity's values, its curiosity, courage, and sense of duty were put to the ultimate test. The SOS was more than a call for help. It was a reminder of why humans had ventured into space in the first place. The galaxy was not just a place to explore or conquer, it was a network of life. Some of it familiar, much of it unknown, all of it deserving of consideration and protection. The decision to mobilize the Deathworlder fleet was not made lightly. Every commander knew the risks, yet the urgency of the signal demanded action. Humanity had to reach the planet, to investigate, and, if necessary, to defend a civilization that had never even met them. As the fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the known sectors behind, anticipation mixed with tension. Scientists monitored the SOS, decoding each pulse, trying to extract clues about the environment, the population, and the nature of the threat. Crew members discussed theories, speculating on everything from natural disasters to hostile alien invaders. Admiral Kale walked the decks, observing his officers and crew, ensuring readiness, but also feeling the weight of responsibility. He understood that history would judge humanity not just by its ability to fight, but by its willingness to act when faced with the unknown. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one fact remained clear: the SOS was real, the threat was imminent, and humanity's Deathworlders were the only hope for survival. In this vast, silent expanse of space, the small fleet of ships represented the courage, ingenuity, and determination of an entire species. For the first time in decades, humans were stepping into an entirely unknown frontier, not for exploration or conquest, but to answer a plea for help, a plea that, if ignored, could mean the end of an entire civilization. This moment marked the beginning of a mission that would test every skill, every instinct, and every principle humanity held dear. Humanity's response was swift, decisive, and full of purpose. The SOS had awakened a deep sense of responsibility among the Death, reminding them why they had trained, why they had expanded into the stars, and why they could never turn away from a civilization in danger. As the fleet drew closer to the alien world, the crew could see the stakes clearly. This was no ordinary mission. Lives hung in the balance, the unknown loomed larger than ever, and the fate of an entire species rested in their hands. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, surprises, and danger. But the resolve of humanity and its Deathworlders was unwavering. They were ready to face the unknown, to protect life, and to prove once again that when the galaxy called for help, humanity would answer without hesitation. As the Deathworlder fleet began its journey toward the distant SOS signal, the sense of urgency among the crew grew with every passing moment. The sector of space they were entering was far removed from human colonies, trade routes, or any known navigational waypoint. It was a part of the galaxy where star maps were sparse, sensors often returned incomplete data, and cosmic anomalies were common. Despite this, the fleet moved with precision and discipline, a testament to years of training, experience, and unwavering commitment. The ships, ranging from massive war cruisers to nimble scout vessels, glided silently through the void, their engines leaving faint trails of energy as they prepared for the unknown challenges ahead. Each crew member understood that the mission was not just dangerous, it was unprecedented. They were venturing into uncharted territory, and the signals they followed hinted at a civilization in desperate peril. Admiral Kale, standing on the bridge of the flagship, was acutely aware of the stakes. He had faced countless battles and countless crises, yet this mission was different. Unlike previous encounters with hostile forces or natural disasters, the SOS represented a living civilization, a species that had never interacted with humans, now potentially facing annihilation. Kale's mind raced through possibilities. Was the SOS genuine, or could it be a trap? What type of species might they encounter? Would the aliens be able to survive long enough for the Deathworlders to arrive? Every decision he made in the next hours would ripple across space, possibly determining life or death for an entire world. Meanwhile, the communication and intelligence officers aboard the fleet were working tirelessly, The SOS signal was complex, a chaotic sequence of energy pulses and encoded patterns that defied traditional translation methods. Teams of linguists, mathematicians, and cybernetic analysts collaborated to decode the transmission in real time. They hypothesized about the civilization's technological level, social structure, environmental conditions, trying to reconstruct a world from fragments of information. The urgency of their work was palpable. Each second of delay could reduce the window of opportunity to save the alien species. The signals indicated a civilization under immediate threat, and analysts feared that the danger could strike before the fleet even arrived. As the fleet progressed, sensors began to detect environmental anomalies around the planet. The region was not empty. Gravitational distortions, radiation pockets, and asteroid clusters made navigation treacherous. Scout ships were dispatched to map safe passageways, weaving through dense asteroid fields and detecting potential hazards. Even small miscalculations could result in catastrophic damage, yet the fleet moved forward with careful coordination. Every officer knew that precision and discipline were essential, not only for the survival of the crew but also for the success of the mission itself. The crew's anticipation and anxiety were matched by a growing sense of purpose. Conversations in the corridors of the ships reflected both curiosity and apprehension. Scientists speculated about the biology and culture of the aliens sending the SOS. Were they humanoid or completely different in form? Did they live in cities or natural habitats? Could they communicate effectively with humans once contact was established? Soldiers prepared for potential conflict, knowing that the unknown could be hostile or defensive. Each preparation, each strategy, and each contingency plan reflected the complex reality of deep space missions. The Deathworlders were not just explorers, they were mediators, defenders, and investigators, ready to adapt to circumstances no human had ever faced before. The fleet also faced logistical challenges. Long-distance travel required careful management of fuel, energy, supplies, and life support systems. Engineers monitored the core systems of every ship, running diagnostics and reinforcing structural integrity against potential hazards. Medical teams prepared for alien physiology they had never encountered, ensuring that any interaction, whether friendly or hostile, could be handled without risk to humans or the aliens. Training simulations ran continuously, preparing crew members for scenarios ranging from first contact negotiations to emergency evacuations, and even combat situations in extreme conditions. These preparations created a balance between caution and action, reflecting the dual nature of the Deathworlders' mission to explore and protect, but also to confront danger when necessary. Amid these preparations, the SOS signal itself continued to evolve. Pulses grew stronger at times, weaker at others, suggesting either changes on the alien planet or the instability of their transmission systems. Analysts noted patterns of distress that hinted at the aliens' population size, the urgency of their plight, and even potential methods of survival. Every signal received was treated like a lifeline, a piece of a puzzle that might reveal how best to help. Some officers speculated about natural disasters, while others feared the presence of hostile forces. The tension aboard the fleet was palpable, as each officer understood that the closer they got to the planet, the higher the stakes became. The journey also provided moments of reflection. Many crew members, particularly younger officers, marveled at the vastness of space and the profound responsibility of their mission. Unlike Earth or even familiar human colonies, this sector was a void filled with mystery and danger. The vast emptiness forced humans to confront both their limitations and their potential. Every star, every distant planet, and every signal represented possibilities and threats, a reminder of the fragile balance between life and annihilation in the cosmos. As the fleet approached the coordinates of the subtle changes became apparent in the readings. Energy signatures suggested a planet that was technologically advanced enough to produce the complex signal, but perhaps not advanced enough to defend itself against whatever threat it faced. Analysts speculated that the alien species may have attempted to construct defensive systems or warning mechanisms, but their efforts seemed insufficient given the urgency of their transmission. Admiral Kale studied these readings, considering every tactical option. The fleet's response had to be immediate yet measured, balancing speed with caution, firepower with diplomacy, and aggression with protection. The crew's focus sharpened as they neared the destination. Orders were precise, communication channels were clear, and each officer knew their role. This level of coordination reflected years of training and experience. But the uniqueness of the mission also meant that improvisation would be necessary. Unknown variables ranging from environmental hazards to potential alien behavior required adaptability and calm decision. Every crew member understood that their success depended on both human skill and the ability to respond to the unpredictable. As hours turned into days, anticipation turned to near certainty. The planet sending the SOS was real, and the threat it faced was imminent. Fleet commanders prepared final plans for orbital insertion, including defensive perimeters, first contact protocols, and emergency evacuation procedures. Scientists finalized models predicting the alien civilization's response to humans, estimating both risk and opportunity. Medical teams simulated treatments for potential injuries or biological incompatibilities. Every system, every simulation, and every strategy reinforced the fleet's readiness. The approaching fleet symbolized more than just human military might. It represented humanity's ethos. While the galaxy was filled with unknown dangers, humanity's commitment to protect life and respond to cries for help remained steadfast. The SOS had awakened a profound sense of responsibility among all aboard. They were not just traveling to a distant planet, they were traveling to potentially save a civilization from extinction. And that mission imbued every officer, soldier, and scientist with focus, determination, and purpose. Throughout this journey, the crew began to bond over their shared mission. Conversations shifted from routine operations to speculation about the alien civilization, the nature of the threat, and the potential consequences of failure. Crew members shared stories of past missions, moments of bravery, and experiences of loss, all of which reinforced their understanding of the risks involved. Despite uncertainty and fear, there was a prevailing sense of unity and resolve. They were in this together, bound by a shared responsibility and a commitment to succeed where others might hesitate. The fleet's approach was finally marked by the first direct readings from the alien planet. Energy fluctuations suggested rapid activity, potentially from cities, structures, or technological installations. There were also signs of panic, perhaps from the alien population preparing for the unknown threat. Sensor data hinted at defenses or automated systems, but their effectiveness remained uncertain. This was the moment when anticipation merged with reality. The planet was no longer just a distant point in space, it was alive with activity, and the urgency of the SOS became immediate and tangible. Admiral Cale addressed the fleet. His words were firm but inspiring, reminding every officer and crew member of their mission to reach the planet, assess the threat, and do everything possible to protect a civilization that had never known humanity. The briefing reinforced the stakes, highlighted the risks, and clarified objectives, ensuring that every member of the fleet understood the importance of their actions. The message was clear. Hesitation was not an option, yet reckless action could jeopardize the mission. Balance, discipline, and courage would define the outcome. The fleet's journey toward the alien SOS marked a turning point in humanity's interstellar presence. It was a mission that combined exploration, science, military precision, and moral responsibility. For many crew members, this journey was the culmination of years of training and preparation, a test of skill, judgment, and character. They were venturing into the unknown not for conquest or profit, but to answer a call for help that might save countless lives. Every decision, every maneuver, and every observation carried significance, shaping the outcome for both humans and the aliens awaiting their arrival. As the fleet closed in on the planet, the tension, anticipation, and sense of duty reached their peak. The SOS had guided them here, and now the reality of their mission began to take shape. Every officer knew that the moments ahead would test their abilities and resolve to the fullest. Humanity's presence in the galaxy had always been defined by its courage and adaptability, and now, faced with the unknown, those qualities would be the deciding factors in a mission that could determine the survival of an entire civilization. The fleet's journey, filled with preparation, uncertainty, and anticipation, was far from over. The closer they got to the alien world, the more pressing their responsibility became. They were approaching not just a planet, but a civilization in peril, and the Deathworlders' actions in the coming hours would be remembered as a defining moment in human history. The stage was set for contact, intervention, and the challenges that awaited them, making this mission one of the most critical and transformative in the annals of humanity's exploration of the cosmos. As the Deathworlder fleet drew closer to the planet, sending the atmosphere aboard the ships shifted from anticipation to heightened tension. The vast emptiness of space offered little comfort. Every blip on the sensors, every energy spike, and every anomaly was now a potential danger. Admiral Cale had spent decades commanding fleets in unpredictable conditions, but even he felt the gravity of the mission intensify as they entered the uncharted sector surrounding the alien world. The SOS had warned of imminent danger, yet the details remained frustratingly vague. The unknown loomed larger than ever, and every officer, a scientist, and soldier aboard the fleet knew that the decisions made in the next hours could determine the survival of an entire civilization. The first signs of complication appeared when the fleet encountered automated defense drones, seemingly deployed around the planet itself. These drones were highly advanced, maneuvering through space with precision, firing warning shots at any approaching vessel. From the human perspective, the drones appeared hostile, but they were not attacking lethally. They seemed to be enforcing a perimeter, possibly meant to protect the planet from perceived threats. Sensor readings indicated that the drones were using complex targeting algorithms, capable of predicting the fleet's movements and adjusting accordingly. Communication attempts yielded no response, only coded signals that hinted at some kind of automated intelligence. The crew realized that the SOS they had followed could have been complicated by this defensive mechanism. What was meant as a call for help was being treated by the planet's systems as an intrusion, adding a layer of complexity to an already perilous mission. Admiral Kale immediately ordered the fleet to maintain a cautious approach, emphasizing both security and readiness for diplomacy. The ships formed precise formations, keeping their most powerful vessels in defensive positions while scouts approached closer to the drones to analyze their behavior. The fleet's engineers worked rapidly to develop countermeasures, adjusting shields and programming evasive maneuvers. At the same time, linguists and analysts continued to decode the SOS signal, hoping to identify any embedded instructions or warnings about these defensive systems. Every second was critical, as the threat described in the SOS was approaching the planet, and delays could result in catastrophic loss of life. Tension among the crew grew as the situation unfolded. On the bridges of the warships, officers monitored multiple readouts simultaneously: energy signatures from the planet, movements of the automated drones, sensor anomalies, and the positions of fleet vessels. Soldiers prepared for the possibility of combat while scientists hypothesized about the intentions behind the drones' deployment. Were they a security measure created by the alien civilization, or had the invading forces activated them to prevent external intervention? Each theory carried profound implications. If the drones were defending against a threat, the fleet had to act carefully to avoid conflict with those they had come to save. If the drones were part of an enemy system, then the mission could become a battle of survival. Immediately upon arrival, the planet itself presented its own set of challenges. Orbital scans revealed a landscape that was both fascinating and hazardous. Towering structures, geometric in design, hinted at an advanced civilization. Yet vast areas showed signs of environmental stress. Energy spikes from the surface suggested ongoing activity, possibly attempts to mobilize defenses or evacuate populations. Scientists aboard the fleet analyzed the fluctuations, trying to understand what they indicated about the aliens' technological level, their social organization, and their capacity to survive an invasion. The readings suggested urgency. The SOS was not merely a request for assistance, but a race against time. Navigating the gravitational anomalies and asteroid fields near the planet required extreme precision. The fleet had to avoid being detected by the automated drones, while maintaining a trajectory that would allow rapid intervention once the threat became visible. Pilots maneuvered with skill and caution, executing maneuvers that tested both the ship's capabilities and their own training. Minor miscalculations could result in collisions or sensor malfunctions, potentially jeopardizing the mission. The environment itself was a gauntlet. Unpredictable gravitational pulls, debris clouds, and electromagnetic interference created layers of difficulty that had to be managed simultaneously with the unfolding situation on the planet. Communication within the fleet was constant and critical. Officers relayed updates on drone movements, sensor anomalies, and potential hazards. Analysts transmitted real-time interpretations of the SOS signal, attempting to discern any last-minute instructions or warnings from the alien civilization. Every message, every transmission, carried the weight of life or death decisions. The crew worked in seamless coordination, a testament to their training and discipline. Yet the unpredictability of the situation kept tension levels high. There was no room for error. Hesitation or miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences not only for the fleet but for the aliens they were trying to protect. As the fleet approached orbital range, a new complication arose. Sensor readings indicated another presence in the system, a massive force moving toward the planet at high velocity. The SOS had mentioned an imminent threat, and now the fleet could confirm it. Ships or entities of unknown origin, far larger and potentially more powerful than anything the aliens could face alone, were advancing toward the world. The fleet's commanders debated strategy: engage immediately to intercept the threat, or attempt to coordinate with the alien automated systems to defend collaboratively. Both options carried significant risk. Direct confrontation could escalate the situation, while reliance on unknown systems might prove insufficient to repel the enemy. Admiral Kale weighed every option carefully, knowing that mistakes could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Amid this escalating crisis, the fleet's analysts made a critical breakthrough. By cross-referencing the SOS signal with the planetary defense systems, they deduced patterns in the drone's behavior. The automated defenses were sophisticated, but predictable once the algorithms were understood. This insight allowed the fleet to develop a precise approach strategy, navigate the perimeter without triggering hostile engagement, while simultaneously preparing to deploy support where the alien civilization was most vulnerable. This strategy required flawless execution, combining navigation, timing, and coordination across multiple ships and teams. The margin for error was minimal, but it provided the first glimpse of hope in an otherwise tense and unpredictable scenario. Crew members continued to experience a roller coaster of emotions. Anxiety, fear, anticipation, and determination were all present simultaneously. Many officers reflected on the broader significance of their mission. This was not just a rescue operation, but a pivotal moment in humanity's role as protectors in the galaxy. They were encountering a civilization that had never known them, facing an unknown enemy, and operating in an environment fraught with danger. The weight of responsibility was immense, yet it also reinforced the sense of purpose. Humanity had ventured into the stars not merely to expand its own territory but to respond to cries for help when they were the only ones capable of doing so. As the fleet moved closer, the first signs of interaction with the alien civilization became visible. Energy flares and small bursts from the planet's surface suggested that the inhabitants were aware of the approaching fleet, perhaps responding with defensive measures or signals. Analysts hypothesized that the aliens might be trying to communicate visually, transmitting warnings or requests through energy patterns. The complexity of their signals reflected both their intelligence and their desperation. Every officer knew that the next moments would be critical in establishing a form of understanding. Before the situation escalated into open conflict, the fleet's tactical teams worked in unison to position the ships optimally. Shields were adjusted, weapons systems calibrated, and communication arrays enhanced to ensure that both defensive and supportive measures could be deployed effectively. Admiral Kale coordinated the operation from the flagship, issuing real-time commands to adjust formations, reroute energy supplies, and prepare boarding or evacuation protocols if necessary. Every officer understood that flexibility was essential. The situation could change instantaneously, requiring rapid adaptation without sacrificing coordination. The tension reached its peak when the unknown enemy force drew closer, and the fleet realized that time was nearly exhausted. The SOS had been accurate. The alien civilization was in immediate danger. Any delay could result in catastrophic loss of life. The automated drones, once a confusing obstacle, were now seen as potential allies, capable of providing early warning and limited defense if approached correctly. Coordination between human strategy and alien systems became the central focus, and every decision required precision, timing, and careful judgment. The stage was set for the pivotal confrontation that would determine the fate of the planet and its inhabitants. The Deathworlder fleet had entered the most dangerous and uncertain phase of the mission. The combination of automated defenses, unknown enemy forces, environmental hazards, and the delicate task of protecting an alien civilization created a situation of extreme complexity. Every officer, scientist, and crew member was engaged in simultaneous challenges, navigating the fleet, analyzing the SOS, preparing for combat, and anticipating the needs of the alien population. The mission had escalated from a rescue operation to a high-stakes test of strategy, skill, and courage. Built through all the tension and uncertainty, one fact remained clear: the SOS was genuine. The threat was imminent, and the Deathworlders were humanity's first and only line of intervention. The decisions made in the coming moments would have consequences far beyond the immediate mission. They would determine whether a civilization survived or perished, whether the fleet succeeded or failed, and whether humanity's role in the galaxy was seen as a force of protection and responsibility. Every sensor reading, every maneuver, and every tactical choice now carried immense weight, setting the stage for the dramatic climax that was rapidly approaching. The fleet's disciplined, coordinated, and carefully calculated approach exemplified humanity's ethos: courage in the face of the unknown, intelligence in the midst of danger, and an unwavering commitment to act when lives hung in the balance. Part 3 of the mission highlighted not only the complexity of space operations, but also the moral responsibility humanity bore as a powerful interstellar civilization. In the void of space, far from home, the Deathworlders were poised to confront danger, negotiate the unknown, and act decisively to save an entire species, marking a defining moment in the annals of human exploration and interstellar intervention. As the Deathworlder fleet finally reached the orbit of the alien planet, the situation escalated into a full-blown crisis. The calm anticipation that had characterized the approach gave way to immediate high-stakes action. The first sight of the planet was both awe-inspiring and alarming. Towering structures of unknown origin stretched across the landscape, hinting at a civilization far more advanced than humans had anticipated. Cities glowed faintly beneath the atmosphere, their energy patterns reflecting a society in motion, one that was clearly aware of the approaching danger. From the fleet's vantage point, it was clear that this civilization was under attack or at least under imminent threat. Ships or entities of unknown design and purpose were closing in rapidly, their trajectories marked by bursts of energy and aggressive maneuvers. Admiral Kale and his commanders had no time to hesitate. Every decision from this point onward would determine the survival of the aliens and the success of the mission. The first challenge the fleet encountered was the automated drones that surrounded the planet. Previously a confusing obstacle, these drones now became part of the operational equation. They were patrolling in precise orbits, scanning for approaching vessels, and firing warning energy pulses at anything that came too close. Sensor teams aboard the fleet analyzed the drones in real time, identifying patterns in their movements and predicting likely reactions to human maneuvers. Through careful calculations, the fleet devised a strategy to navigate between the drones, avoiding direct conflict while positioning themselves for rapid intervention. The strategy required flawless timing, communication, and precision piloting. Even minor miscalculations could trigger aggressive responses or inadvertently damage the planet's fragile defenses. As the fleet maneuvered, the first signs of the alien population in distress became visible. Small settlements and structures on the surface were lighting up with activity, possibly evacuation signals or automated defensive measures. The SOS had been accurate. The planet was under immediate threat. The unknown enemy, revealed by sensors to be a fleet of large, fast-moving vessels with highly advanced weaponry, was closing in. Energy readings indicated that these attackers had already begun bombarding outer installations, and localized destruction was occurring. The Deathworlder fleet had to act immediately, balancing the need to protect civilians, neutralize the enemy, and coordinate with the planet's automated defenses. The complexity of the situation left no room for error. Admiral Kale made rapid decisions to deploy the fleet in multiple formations. The capital ships, bristling with weapons and defensive shields, moved into positions to intercept the incoming enemy. Smaller, faster vessels were tasked with escorting evacuation pods and protecting key civilian areas from bombardment. Tactical teams on the bridge worked in seamless coordination, issuing commands, monitoring energy shields, calculating trajectories, and adjusting targeting systems. Each officer understood that timing was critical. Even a delay of seconds could result in catastrophic casualties. The first shots fired were warning volleys aimed at testing enemy reactions and establishing the fleet's presence. The enemy's response was immediate and violent. Advanced energy weapons discharged across space, creating a web of destructive light that threatened both fleet and planet. Debris from destroyed installations and deflected projectiles added to the chaos. The fleet's shields absorbed many attacks, but the strain on energy systems was intense. Crew members worked at peak capacity, adjusting shields, rerouting power, and coordinating evasive maneuvers while simultaneously analyzing the enemy's behavior. Every decision was a calculated risk. A wrong move could lead to loss of ships or compromise civilian safety at the same time. Analysts continued their work on the SOS signal. The pulses and encoded patterns had begun to make sense in the context of the conflict. The alien civilization had automated many defensive systems, but these systems were not enough to repel the attackers entirely. The fleet now had critical insights into vulnerable points, potential evacuation routes, and the enemy's likely targets. This intelligence allowed Admiral Kale to adjust strategy dynamically, directing ships to shield civilians while intercepting enemy vessels. The combination of real-time intelligence and rapid tactical execution became the defining factor in the unfolding battle. As the battle intensified, the fleet moved closer to the planet's surface. The automated drones, initially a source of confusion, now coordinated unexpectedly well with the Deathworlders' maneuvers. It became apparent that the drones were designed to protect the planet at all costs, and once the fleet understood their patterns, they could integrate human intervention with the alien systems. This coordination was delicate. One misalignment could trigger hostile reactions. Yet, as the fleet synchronized movements with the drones, they formed an effective defensive perimeter, intercepting enemy ships before they could reach civilian zones. The situation was tense, chaotic, and dangerous, but it also marked the first step toward turning the tide. The civilians on the planet were increasingly visible through sensor imagery. Clusters of inhabitants were attempting to evacuate using rudimentary transport systems and shelters. Many appeared frightened, their energy outputs spiking in patterns that indicated panic. The fleet responded by sending escort units to protect these evacuation routes, ensuring that the civilians could move away from danger. Medical teams prepared for potential injuries while engineering units monitored environmental stability. Every move required careful balance. The fleet had to protect life, without inadvertently triggering further chaos or destruction. Enemy vessels proved relentless. They were larger than initial scans had suggested, moving with precision and apparent intelligence. They fired on fleet ships, forcing constant evasive maneuvers while attempting to breach defensive lines. Energy shields glowed under impact, and the hum of power systems indicated the immense strain on every vessel. Yet the Deathworlder fleet's experience, discipline, and coordination began to show results. Tactical units executed complex maneuvers, cutting off enemy approaches, diverting fire, and systematically neutralizing threats. The battle was intense, testing not only technical skill but the resolve and courage of every crew member. Amidst the chaos, a critical breakthrough occurred. Fleet analysts identified a central hub in the enemy formation, a command vessel or control center that coordinated attacks. By targeting this hub with precise strikes, the fleet could disrupt enemy operations, reduce incoming fire, and buy more time for civilian evacuation. Admiral Kale made the decisive call to focus firepower on this target while maintaining defensive support for the planet's population. Smaller escort units shielded civilians and provided rapid response to localized threats, while capital ships concentrated on the central command hub. The synergy between human fleet and alien automated defenses reached its peak effectiveness. The impact of the coordinated assault was immediate. Enemy formations faltered, energy discharges became erratic, and some ships began retreating. The fleet maintained pressure, forcing the enemy into disarray while protecting civilians and neutralizing key threats. The combination of human strategy, disciplined execution, and integration with alien systems marked a turning point in the battle. The SOS had been accurate, the alien civilization needed intervention, and humanity's Deathworlders had delivered it with precision and courage. Throughout the conflict, crew members faced intense personal and professional challenges. Pilots maneuvered through enemy fire and asteroid debris, technicians maintained critical systems under stress, and commanders made split-second decisions with far-reaching consequences. Many officers reflected on the magnitude of the mission. They were fighting not only for the survival of an alien civilization but also for humanity's reputation as protectors in the galaxy. The moral weight of their actions was immense, and yet every individual acted with discipline, determination, and unwavering focus. As the battle reached its peak, the central enemy hub was successfully disabled. Energy patterns indicated that the attackers were no longer coordinating effectively, and remaining enemy vessels began to retreat. The fleet maintained defensive positions while overseeing evacuation and damage control on the planet. The automated drones, now fully integrated with human operations, continued to provide protection and stability. The immediate threat had been neutralized. Though the planet remained fragile and in need of continued support, the climax of the mission demonstrated the full capabilities of the Deathworlder fleet: advanced technology, disciplined coordination, tactical intelligence, and moral resolve combined to achieve what seemed nearly impossible. The alien civilization, once on the brink of annihilation, now had a chance to survive, thanks to humanity's decisive intervention. The SOS, which had triggered the fleet's mobilization, had been answered fully, marking a defining moment in human interstellar operations. In the aftermath of the battle, the crew began immediate operations to stabilize the situation. Evacuation units escorted remaining civilians to safe zones. Medical teams treated injuries, and engineering teams worked to repair infrastructure and maintain environmental stability. The alien automated systems, once independent, were now operating in harmony with human oversight, providing additional security and support. Every officer and crew member understood that the immediate danger had passed, but the mission was far from over. Recovery, support, and understanding of the alien civilization's needs would require ongoing effort and vigilance. The climax of the mission revealed key lessons for humanity. It demonstrated the importance of preparation, adaptability, and moral responsibility in deep space operations. It highlighted the ability of humans to coordinate complex interventions with both technology and strategy, achieving results that single forces could not accomplish alone. Most importantly, it reinforced humanity's role as a protector in the galaxy, capable of responding decisively to crises where other civilizations could not. The battle would be remembered not only for its intensity but for the courage, skill, and determination displayed by every member of the fleet. The immediate threat to the alien civilization had been neutralized, and the Deathworlder fleet had proven its effectiveness in an unprecedented situation. The combination of human initiative, technological superiority, and coordinated strategy had turned the tide against seemingly insurmountable odds. The SOS that had triggered the mission had been answered in full, and the stage was set for the next phase, ensuring the long-term survival and recovery of the alien population, stabilizing their planet, and reflecting on the lessons of courage, adaptability, and responsibility that the mission had so vividly demonstrated. Humanity's intervention had not only saved lives but also reinforced the values that had driven their expansion into the stars: curiosity, courage, and a commitment to protect life whenever and wherever it was threatened. After the intense and decisive battle above the alien planet, the Deathworlder fleet shifted its focus from combat to rescue and recovery. The immediate threat posed by the unknown enemy had been neutralized, but the planet below remained in a state of extreme vulnerability. Civilians were scattered across damaged cities and evacuation points, many struggling to cope with the trauma of an attack that had brought their world to the brink of annihilation. The SOS that had first drawn the fleet had not exaggerated the urgency. The reality of the devastation was evident, and the scale of human intervention required careful planning and meticulous execution. Admiral Cale quickly reorganized the fleet's efforts, ensuring that combat readiness transitioned seamlessly into humanitarian operations. The first priority was to secure safe zones for the alien population. Small, agile escort vessels were deployed to shuttle civilians from danger zones to protected areas under fleet surveillance. Energy shields and automated drones provided temporary protection while civilians moved through unstable environments. Scientists and analysts used their sensors to identify areas of structural collapse, radiation pockets, and environmental hazards, guiding evacuation routes in real time. Every officer understood that precision and timing were crucial. Even as the battle had ended, lingering dangers such as destabilized energy grids, automated defense malfunctions, and environmental instability threatened lives. Medical teams were immediately activated to attend to the injured. Alien physiology, though initially unfamiliar, was partially decoded through the SOS and early sensor readings. Advanced triage units were set up, capable of providing immediate treatment to large numbers of injured civilians, while accounting for their unique biological needs. Crew members trained in xenomedicine worked alongside engineers to ensure that life support systems and evacuation zones maintained safe atmospheric conditions. It was a delicate balance. Treatment had to be rapid to prevent loss of life, yet carefully managed to avoid additional stress on already fragile systems. The fleet's ability to adapt quickly to alien medical requirements reflected the human commitment to preserving life at all costs. Engineers worked tirelessly to stabilize damaged infrastructure. Power grids, communication arrays, and environmental control systems had been compromised by both the initial attack and the battle above the planet. Temporary generators were deployed, and robotic repair units began reinforcing critical structures. The goal was to restore essential functions, including food and water distribution, transportation networks, and communication channels, so that the alien civilization could begin to recover. Every repair and reconstruction task was carried out under the watchful eye of the fleet, ensuring that the work proceeded efficiently and safely. The collaboration between human engineers and alien automated systems created a synergy that accelerated recovery and minimized risk. Amid these operations, scientists and linguists worked to establish direct communication with the alien leaders. The SOS had provided only fragmented information, and the fleet needed to understand the broader context of the civilization's needs. Initial attempts were cautious, relying on visual signals, energy pulses, and simplified communication protocols designed to bridge the gap between species. Slowly, a basic understanding emerged. The aliens expressed gratitude for the fleet's intervention and began to provide critical information about areas of concentrated population, locations of remaining threats, and environmental hazards. This dialogue, fragile and tentative at first, became a foundation for coordinated recovery efforts. The fleet also had to ensure long-term security. Although the immediate enemy threat had retreated, the potential for renewed attacks could not be ignored. Patrols were established in orbit and along critical trajectories, combining Deathworlder vessels with the alien automated defense systems. Energy shields were strengthened around key population centers, and contingency plans were developed for rapid evacuation if necessary. The fleet remained vigilant, aware that survival depended not only on immediate action but also on maintaining stability until the planet's defenses and population could regain strength. This dual focus on rescue and security highlighted the strategic sophistication of the Deathworlders. As recovery operations progressed, the alien civilization began to demonstrate resilience. Groups of inhabitants coordinated efforts to clear debris, secure shelters, and tend to the wounded. The presence of the fleet provided both protection and inspiration, showing that their survival was possible even in the aftermath of near-total devastation. Humans worked alongside the aliens, sharing tools, expertise, and logistical support. The collaboration was more than a temporary intervention. It was a demonstration of interspecies solidarity in the face of existential threat. Crew members found themselves not just as soldiers or scientists but as allies, mentors, and protectors in a profound sense. Admiral Kale oversaw these operations with a combination of strategic oversight and personal attention. He recognized that the mission's success required more than neutralizing a threat. It required fostering trust, ensuring cooperation, and safeguarding lives in a chaotic and unpredictable environment. His experience allowed him to anticipate complications, allocate resources effectively, and coordinate between multiple operational teams simultaneously. The fleet's ability to adapt from combat mode to humanitarian support reflected both the flexibility of human systems and the moral framework that guided them, the responsibility to act decisively to preserve life whenever possible. Throughout the planet, small victories began to emerge. Communities that had been isolated or cut off during the initial attacks were connected to safe zones. Power was partially restored to key urban centers, enabling basic infrastructure to function. Medical teams reported improving survival rates among the injured, and evacuation routes were secured against potential hazards. Each success, no matter how small, reinforced the fleet's efforts and gave hope to the alien population. The SOS that had initially seemed like a desperate call now transformed into a series of actionable priorities, each addressed with precision and care. The trauma of the attack had affected the alien population deeply. Advisors and mediators aboard the fleet worked to facilitate communication, understanding, and reassurance. The presence of humans, previously unknown to the aliens, became a symbol of hope and protection. Cultural liaisons monitored reactions to ensure that recovery efforts were respectful and sensitive, building a bridge of trust that could endure beyond the immediate crisis. This focus on psychological and social needs reflected a holistic approach to intervention. Recognizing that survival required both physical security and emotional resilience, the integration of fleet operations with alien systems allowed rapid adaptation to unexpected challenges. such as environmental hazards and structural collapses. Robotics, automated repair units, and advanced logistical networks enabled tasks that would have been impossible manually. Energy management systems stabilized failing infrastructure, and predictive algorithms guided resource allocation efficiently. Every element of technology and human planning contributed to the overall success of the recovery operation, demonstrating the capabilities of the Deathworlder fleet beyond combat alone. As days passed, the alien civilization began to regain a sense of normalcy. Evacuation zones transitioned into semi-permanent shelters, power distribution became more stable, and communication channels allowed coordinated rebuilding efforts. The SOS that had once been a frantic call for help was now a symbol of connection between species, illustrating the impact of timely intervention and effective collaboration. The fleet continued to oversee operations, ensuring that progress was steady and that potential threats were monitored continuously. Admiral Kale and his commanders conducted evaluations of both immediate and long-term needs. While the planet was no longer under active assault, the rebuilding process would take months, if not years. Strategic plans were implemented to train alien personnel in emergency procedures, integrate automated defenses with human oversight, and establish ongoing communication protocols to prevent future crises. This planning demonstrated a forward-looking approach, ensuring that the civilization's recovery would be sustainable even after the fleet departed. They had not only prevented the destruction of a civilization but had helped create the foundation for its continued survival. The success of the operation reinforced the core principles that had guided humanity's expansion into the stars: courage in the face of uncertainty, responsibility toward life beyond one's own species, and the ability to act decisively when intervention could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Each crew member's contributions, from piloting and medical care to engineering and analysis, had combined to achieve an extraordinary outcome. The alien leaders began to engage more openly with the fleet. Discussions centered on long-term cooperation, cultural exchange, and technological collaboration. Trust, initially tentative, developed rapidly as the aliens witnessed the fleet's consistent and deliberate actions to preserve life and restore stability. These interactions were carefully documented by human analysts, providing critical insights for future missions and establishing a precedent for interspecies cooperation in crisis scenarios. Civilians had safe zones, critical infrastructure was functional, and ongoing threats were monitored and mitigated. The fleet's operations had transformed the SOS from a desperate call into a coordinated success story. Humanity's intervention had not only preserved lives but had fostered trust, resilience, and hope. The aliens, once terrified and isolated, now had the resources, knowledge, and protection to rebuild their society. It became clear that the mission's success was the result of meticulous planning, adaptability, and unwavering commitment to life. The fleet had moved from combat to humanitarian support seamlessly, demonstrating the versatility, skill, and ethical grounding of the Death. The SOS that had triggered their mobilization was answered fully, and the alien civilization had a real chance to recover, thrive, and perhaps, one day, contribute to the broader interstellar community. Through this experience, the Deathworlder fleet not only validated their operational excellence but also reaffirmed humanity's role in the galaxy as protectors and responders to crises. The lessons learned, both technical and moral, would guide future missions, ensuring that when civilizations called for help, humanity could respond with precision, courage, and compassion. The rescue and recovery operations of this alien world became a testament to what could be achieved when technology, strategy, and humanity's moral compass aligned in the service of life. With the alien planet stabilized and its immediate threats neutralized, the final phase of the mission allowed the Deathworlder fleet to reflect on the profound consequences of their intervention. After days of intense combat, rescue, and recovery, a calm settled over the fleet as the urgency of crisis operations gave way to strategic assessment and moral reflection. The planet, though still fragile, was on the path to recovery, and the alien population had begun to regain confidence in their future. From the fleet's vantage point in orbit, the planet's cities glimmered softly in the aftermath of conflict. Temporary energy shields still glowed over key zones. Evacuation corridors were secure, and automated drones, now coordinated with human oversight, patrolled in patterns designed to prevent future surprises. Admiral Kale took the opportunity to address his officers and crew. The words spoken were not only tactical debriefings but reflections on responsibility, courage, and the significance of humanity's role in the galaxy. He reminded them that the mission had not been about conquest, profit, or demonstration of power. It had been about life. In the quiet moments after the battle, it became clear that the fleet had acted as both protectors and ambassadors, bridging the gap between species and demonstrating that intervention in a crisis required both skill and compassion. Crew members listened intently, aware that the lessons learned here would shape every future mission and interaction across the stars. As the human officers conducted debriefings and assessments, the alien leaders began to emerge from temporary shelters to engage more openly with the fleet. Initial interactions had been cautious, mediated by energy signals and the observation of drones. But now a dialogue of mutual understanding began. The aliens expressed profound gratitude for the fleet's actions, their voices and energy patterns reflecting relief and wonder at humanity's intervention. Through interpreters and coded translations, they shared the story of their near annihilation, the fear they had felt during the attacks, and the hope that had been restored by the arrival of the Death. These exchanges reinforced the idea that the mission had been about more than immediate survival. It had been about trust, empathy, and the potential for lasting interstellar cooperation. The fleet also began to document the full scope of the operation. Analysts worked tirelessly to catalog every element: enemy strategies, the behavior of automated drones, energy readings from the planet, casualty numbers, evacuation efficiency, and the performance of fleet technologies. This documentation would serve as a vital record for future operations, providing lessons in tactical coordination, interspecies communication, and crisis management. Every officer contributed observations and insights, ensuring that the mission's outcomes were not only successful but also educational, enhancing humanity's ability to respond to similar situations. Elsewhere in the galaxy, medical and engineering teams continued their work even as the crisis subsided. Alien injuries were treated, infrastructure repaired, and energy systems stabilized. The planet's recovery was gradual but steady, a testament to the coordinated efforts of human expertise and the resilience of the alien civilization. Advanced human technologies, combined with the aliens' automated systems, allowed critical zones to function effectively even in areas where the original infrastructure had been destroyed. Crew members found satisfaction in seeing the tangible results of their efforts: functioning energy grids, operational shelters, and safe transit corridors for civilians. Every repaired structure, every healed individual, reinforced the impact of the fleet's intervention. Amidst these practical tasks, philosophical and ethical reflections emerged. Crew members and officers began to contemplate the significance of their mission in a broader context. Humanity's ability to traverse space, respond to SOS signals, and intervene in extraterrestrial crises was a profound demonstration of both technological prowess and moral responsibility. They recognized that their actions were not isolated events but part of a larger narrative. Humanity as a responsible actor in a galaxy full of unknown civilizations, dangers, and ethical dilemmas. Questions about the limits of intervention, the responsibilities owed to other species, and the consequences of inaction were discussed in quiet moments, fostering a sense of ethical awareness that would shape future missions' communication. Systems aboard the fleet allowed for ongoing coordination with the alien population. Plans were developed to gradually hand over operational control of automated defense systems to the aliens themselves, ensuring that security would be maintained while empowering the inhabitants. Advisors and trainers worked alongside local leaders to teach evacuation protocols, maintenance of energy shields, and emergency response procedures. This approach ensured that the alien civilization would not remain dependent on human intervention indefinitely but could gradually achieve self-sufficiency while retaining protective measures against future threats. In the orbital command centers, analysts reviewed the enemy forces responsible for the initial attack. Sensor data suggested that the aggressors had retreated to distant sectors of space, regrouping but unlikely to strike again in the immediate term. Strategic assessments were made regarding potential long-term threats and monitoring systems were established to detect any renewed activity. While the immediate danger had passed, the fleet remained vigilant, recognizing that the cosmos was unpredictable, and that the survival of civilizations often depended on continued awareness and preparedness. Throughout this aftermath, individual crew members reflected on their personal experiences: pilots who had navigated through enemy fire, engineers who had stabilized failing infrastructure, medical officers who had treated unfamiliar physiology, and analysts who had decoded complex SOS signals all recognized the profound impact of their work. The mission had tested their skills, endurance, and judgment, but it had also provided a rare opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the survival of an entire civilization. Many officers felt a sense of pride not in their individual achievements but in the collective capability of humanity to act decisively, ethically, and effectively when faced with crises. The aliens, now beginning to rebuild, expressed a mixture of relief and awe at the scope of the intervention. Cultural exchanges began in subtle ways. Energy signals were shared, symbols of communication developed, and preliminary discussions about technology and knowledge transfer were initiated. While the two civilizations were still far apart in experience and understanding, the events had laid the foundation for mutual respect and cooperation. Humanity's intervention had not only saved lives, but also created the possibility of long-term partnership and interstellar diplomacy. Admiral Kale oversaw the final phase of operational coordination. The fleet's departure would be gradual, ensuring that no immediate gaps in protection or support were left behind. Evacuation corridors, shielded zones, and automated systems were thoroughly tested, and contingency plans were rehearsed to handle any sudden emergencies. The fleet maintained a presence in orbit until the alien civilization had regained a stable operational baseline. This careful, deliberate approach ensured that the SOS had been answered completely, honoring both the immediate needs of the population and the responsibility humanity held as an interstellar actor. In quiet moments aboard the fleet, crew members reflected on the broader meaning of their mission. They had witnessed fear, chaos, courage, and resilience across species lines. They had confronted unknown enemies, navigated dangerous environments, and balanced the moral imperatives of protection with strategic necessity. The experience underscored humanity's role in the galaxy as explorers, defenders, and stewards of life, where opportunity and obligation intersected. Each observation, each action, and each decision contributed to a deeper understanding of what it meant to operate responsibly in a universe filled with unknown civilizations and unpredictable threats. As recovery and reflection continued, the fleets prepared to depart the planet's orbit. The aliens had regained sufficient control of their environment. Evacuation protocols were functioning smoothly, and automated defenses were integrated with human oversight. Communications were left open, providing ongoing monitoring and support if necessary. The fleet's exit was not a simple retreat but a measured withdrawal, ensuring that the planet remained secure while reaffirming the alliance and trust established during the crisis. The SOS that had first triggered the mobilization had been fully addressed, and the planet was now on a path toward long-term stability. The mission's aftermath also prompted reflection within human command structures. Reports and debriefings emphasized lessons learned, the importance of rapid and adaptable response, the integration of technology with local systems, the necessity of cross-species communication, and the ethical dimensions of intervention. These insights would inform future operations, guiding humanity in its role as a responsible presence in interstellar space. The successful resolution reinforced the values of courage, discipline, and moral responsibility that had guided the fleet's actions from the initial SOS to the present moment. Throughout the fleet, a sense of achievement permeated the atmosphere. Crew members recognized that their efforts had transcended mere operational success. They had preserved life, fostered trust, and demonstrated the potential of humanity to act decisively in defense of civilizations far removed from Earth. The experience would remain etched in the memories of all involved, shaping future interactions, missions, and the collective understanding of what it meant to serve as a Deathworlder. As the fleet prepared to depart, the alien leaders expressed their final messages of gratitude. The gestures were symbolic, conveying respect, relief, and hope for a future that had once seemed uncertain. The SOS that had triggered the entire operation was now a testament to the profound consequences of human action. A civilization that had faced extinction now had the opportunity to rebuild, recover, and thrive. The intervention had been decisive, the recovery effective, and the trust established provided a foundation for future collaboration. Humanity had responded to an interstellar call for help, navigating unknown dangers, engaging with unfamiliar civilizations, and ultimately preserving life in the face of extreme adversity. The Deathworlder fleet had demonstrated not only tactical and technological excellence, but also ethical foresight and compassion. The SOS had been answered fully. The civilization saved. Humanity's role in the galaxy affirmed as a force for protection, responsibility, and hope. The story concluded with a powerful reminder: in the vastness of space, courage, coordination, and compassion could bridge even the greatest gaps, ensuring that life and the promise of life could endure.